This is C.U.R.E. Radio, your broadcasting conduit to the latest medical information, facts, and reports from the cutting edge. Your hosts are Anita Finley and Cornelius Myers.
It's C.U.R.E. Radio. C.U.R.E. stands for Cutting Edge Understanding, Research, and Education. And I'm Anita Finley, and I'm the co-host along with Cornelius Myers. We are going to really fill you with information that is going to make your life better, healthier, and we're going to do this every week. So welcome to the show. Hello, Neil.
Hello, Anita. How exciting. Chapter 1 of C.U.R.E. Radio. This is just great.
Yeah, well, we're excited. And, of course, you are you're over 50 as I am. And that means that there are lots of changes that have occurred in our world. And we're going to try each week to run by some of them. And hopefully we're going to give you our website so that you can send in ideas that you would like us to talk about. So what do you think we should talk about first, Neil?
Well, first I want to do a little background.
Okay.
Based on the enormous success of your C.U.R.E. Wonderful programs that were the symposiums that have been on. The last one was on October 24th of this year, and we did sort of an unofficial exit poll with both sides of the issue, doctors on one side and the people who attended to get information on the other. And it was really interesting to hear the overlap. First of all, the doctors were so thrilled with a chance to meet an audience face-to-face, live, disseminate information that was important to them in their particular pursuits. And the opportunity doesn't present itself that often, so that they were happy, all 16 of them, to jump up on the stage and share some of their expertise. On the listeners' side of it, everybody pretty much said the same thing. I learned so much. I have so much information from what I had today. Can't we do this more often? Which is a legitimate question until you consider that it's almost a military exercise. There are an army of people behind these symposiums. And the organization that goes on and the coordination of, imagine getting 16 doctors in the same place on the same day at the same time to do the same thing. Almost impossible, and only Anita, of course, could achieve that. So with that thought in mind, we started to kick around the idea of how do we continue a pipeline of information, medical information, that can change people's lives, enhance people's lives, or at least alert them and make them aware of things that they should know. There's not enough sources out there. Not enough real people are talking about it over the. Of course, we see people like Dr. Oz, but he's a star talking about big league things. We're talking about really human kind of information that you can utilize in your own life. If you want to ask questions, of course, you go to the website and get in touch with Anita, and we're going to ask you for questions in the course of this program's run. If we can find a question that we like a lot each week, we will pose it to a doctor who's an expert and have them come on and be interviewed to answer your question. So there's a lot going to happen on C.U.R.E. Radio, and we're going to start right now.
Good. I am glad you're going to do that. And before you do start, let me just say something that I've been amazed at. And, of course, Neil Cornelius Myers, really, I call him Neil Myers, and he has been the master of ceremonies, and he's right there, and he hears everything. But aren't you amazed, Neil, how articulate? Not only are they smart, but they are so articulate when they speak.
They really are. Well, actually, they're charismatic. There are a couple of those doctors that glow in the dark. And that you look at the faces of the audience, which is what I'm doing, because I'm wandering around with a microphone fielding questions and posing occasionally some of my own. And you look at their faces, and they're illuminated because these people are relating to them. It's a one-to-one piece of information. It's not some cold academic breakdown that you really have to mull over. This comes right to where they are, and the people are reactive, and it's just wonderful. The response is overwhelming. That's why I think this is a particularly great idea. But no, the doctors, they are super, and they seem to take on a new life of their own. But you, Anita, have been interviewing people from the medical field for such a long time, and you're so deep in the interview technique, and you know so much going in, that it really allows these people to not talk down to us, but to share a conversation with you in perfectly understandable, applicable language. And that's very rare these days in medicine.
Well, thank you, Neil. And I've told doctors that we are going to do C.U.R.E Radio. And, of course, they're itching to be a part of it. So we're going to allow you to figure out when we're going to let them come in. But I think something you said, and it's very smart, we're going to talk about the subject, and then you can refer to a particular doctor. And it may not be a local doctor. It may be a doctor across the country. It might be abroad because, of course, you live in Monaco so much of the year. So this is really going to be kind of a world-class symposium on the air called C.U.R.E Radio. So why don't we take the first thing? What do you think that should be?
Well, it's something that really affects all of us to greater and lesser degree. And I qualify that because those of us who are fortunate enough to spend a lot of time in South Florida have an abundance of sunshine, even on December 21st, the shortest day of the year. For us, it's still a brilliant sunny sky, and we bask in that, and it's part of our reason for being here. However, there are people in parts of the world that suffer terrible depressions during the short light season, winter, in other words. And the depressions are almost clinical in nature, and a lot of times people don't understand why they're so down. I remember my grandmother talking about, I've got the blues. Now, she wasn't Bessie Smith. She was just an ordinary person who just felt down on the day and couldn't understand why. And you look out the window, and here are gray clouds, no sunshine, little light penetrating the atmosphere. So this has now been researched and been made scientific as seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. So I think we start this segment with the question is, why are you so sad? This might be a contributing factor.
One thing I would share with you is that people who have Alzheimer's have what they call the sundown effect. And around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, they really don't know where they are. I mean, even if they're having problems during the day, that really becomes a difficult time for them.
That's quite amazing. I didn't know that. I'll share something with you as well, that women are more affected by this than men.
I wonder why that's true. You know, there's so many questions, aren't there?
There are, but it's getting answered because science and particularly the pharmaceutical companies are very interested now in solving this conundrum. I can remember when they first started to talk about it, let's say 10, 15 years ago, they had some entrepreneurial people come up with these baseball caps that had little lights on either side of them, and they were battery-driven, and during the dark days of winter, you could wear your baseball cap with the light shining to keep your body exposed to more light, and therefore you become less depressed.
I never heard of that. That's wild. We ought to bring them back. Maybe that's our product on C.U.R.E Radio.
Obviously, you can hear Anita and I are not very sad.
No, we're not very sad. But you bring a very good point. And of course, besides the climate and the sun, it's a time when people do reminisce, and some people really haven't gotten over some of their losses.
That's very true. Very true, Anita. And not only does it affect women more than men, it affects people who live far from the equator, where winter daylight hours are very short. It also hits people between the ages of 15 and 55. The risk of getting a seasonal adjustment disease for the first time goes down as you age, interestingly enough. And also people who have a close relative with SAD seem to be more prone to this winter or seasonal depression. And they think, experts aren't exactly sure what causes it, but they seem to think it may be strictly to a lack of sunlight, lack of light in your life. It upsets your biological clock, which controls your sleep-wake pattern and the other circadian rhythms that we are all affected with. It causes problems with serotonin, which is a brain chemical that affects the mood. And in the darker days, the body produces less of it, and therefore you have less strong positive moods, and you're more likely to slip into a dark mood. How do you know if you have it? Well, you kind of know already, I think. You feel sad, grumpy, moody, anxious. You lose interest in your usual activities. You eat more. You crave carbohydrates, such as bread and pasta, or what we used to call comfort food. Logically, because of that, you gain weight. You sleep more, but you get up feeling tired. and you have trouble concentrating. You get scattered because you're off center, and you're just not able to move on in a normal way. People come and go, and the symptoms come and go about the same time every year. And most people with SAD start to have the symptoms in September or October, and by the time April or May comes around, they're feeling much, much better.
You know, Neil, that's one reason why people seem to live more actively down here in South Florida, because we do have blue skies as compared to when you go up north to other areas which are very dreary. So that has a very big bearing on what you've been saying. I
think so. And it's also difficult to diagnose. Doctors have really been reluctant to diagnose it. They're more than happy to give you medication against depression, but just to attribute it to a lack of light seems to be out of their reach. But they're coming around on that. They're asking important questions about the type of depression, asking questions like, have you been depressed during the same season and then gotten better when the season changed back, and did that happen 2 years in a row? Do you have symptoms that often occur with SAD, being very hungry and, as we said, craving carbohydrates, gaining weight, sleeping more than usual? You may have to have blood tests to rule out other conditions that can cause similar symptoms, such as hyperthyroidism. But generally speaking, if your moods are not dramatically depressed, but you're tinged with a sadness and a lack of energy, you can very well get in hold of your doctor and have him do a mental health assessment to get a better idea of how well you could possibly think, reason, and remember if you had more light. They're coming up with solutions. They're not just giving you Xanax and sending you home to vegetate. Yes. They're working with you to try to improve your light sources, and there are a variety of ways of doing it. And your doctor will know about this, and the more questions you ask, the better, which is really the most important point that C.U.R.E. Radio brings into your home. That's the more information you have about your body, your health, and the people who keep you healthy, better off you are. What you don't know really will hurt you.
That's excellent. That's a wonderful report, Neil, and I attest to everything you've said. The one thing we do know, too, is that the brain has now become the most important organ. We kind of put it aside for the past 50 years, and now everything is going to the brain. They're doing so many tests, and I'm sure they'll come up with that. So now that you've done such an excellent job on SAD, let's talk about something that's going to be fun and different, the teeth. Now, I've spent a lot of years in the dentist's office, and I've had all sorts of crowns and all sorts of things, but you have now something very exciting that's happening with our teeth.
Yes, glass is your teeth's new best friend. Go figure that. It's another wonderful scientific breakthrough, although to be perfectly clear about this, glass has been in the enamel compound that some dentists have used for some time. But now they're realizing the real potential for it. If you think that every few years from now, people around the world might be waking up with an unusual kind of glass in their mouth, and they'll be using it every time they eat. Some engineers at Oregon State University have made some promising findings about the ability of bioactive glass to help reduce the ability of bacteria to attack composite tooth fillings, and perhaps even provide some of the minerals needed to replace those lost to tooth decay. And it's an amazing breakthrough. They can really mean a lot for your dental health. And of course, Anita, your dental health is key to your overall health. If you're walking around with a bad situation in your mouth and your teeth are not healthy, it affects everything and can really start to emulate heart attacks and lung problems, adrenal problems, and it all stems from your teeth. This is a giant step in the positive direction to stop that from happening.
I want to tell you a very personal story about that. My husband, Bill, who is now in his early 90s, he went to the dentist, and he has his own teeth, and he went to the dentist, and they told him that he needed 3 crowns. And he said to me, well, should we spend the money on the crowns? I said, of course we should. Got to keep your teeth in good order. So that's the new thing. It doesn't matter how old you are. That makes a difference in your health, as you said, Neil.
Yes, absolutely. I want to do in the C.U.R.E. radio program down the line some information about pacemakers and get some cardiologist feedback. But you bring it to mind, Anita, because my cardiologist told me he was just most amazed. He just installed a pacemaker to a 92-year-old woman. And he said, this is somebody who wants life, wants to live, and wants to live in a healthy fashion. And she was more than happy to have it, and they were more than happy to provide it. So the door doesn't close on health. It only slowly closes, bit by bit, and you can keep it open.
On a lot of my radio shows, when I do deal with physicians, that's usually the question I used to ask. I don't do now. I'd say, well, if someone were 95, would you still put this new implant in? And they said now, absolutely. And they tell me about a man who was 98 and he just had a new hip. And so life has changed, hasn't it, Neil?
It has, a lot. And part of this glass tooth technology that I find intriguing is that it can prolong the life of composite tooth fillings. It would be a very important step forward for dental treatment. The researchers are saying that more than 122 million composite tooth restorations are made in the United States every year. An average person uses their teeth for more than 600,000 chews a year. And some studies suggest the average lifetime of posterior dental composite is only 6 years. This is all, by the way, to give it an attribution to it. It's just been published in the Dental Materials Research from the National Institutes of Health. And they categorize bioactive glass as a type of crushed glass that's able to interact with the body, has been used in some time of bone healing for decades, and now is being used in an advanced fashion by structural and biomaterials from the Oregon State University College of Engineering. So the glass has arrived. It's something to make it in a practical application. The next time you go to your dentist, have a conversation about it. He may not bring it up because he doesn't think it's appropriate or you're interested. If you're interested, ask the questions and open up the dialogue. Who knows what positive results come from conversations like that?
I would think he probably won't even know about it. And they'll say, well, I heard this on C.U.R.E. Radio.
Absolutely. And again, the attribution is the University of Oregon. And it's been published, and science has embraced it.
Well, I was thinking, as you were talking about that, about Google Glass. You know, these are Google teeth, right?
Is that a cash register I hear ringing someplace, you know? All right, what a brilliant idea. Let's market that.
Yeah, but then you're talking about that. I think that it will be something that will sustain so that people who have this, they don't have to go back to the dentist for another 3 or 4 years, that this is going to be there. Now, it'd be very interesting as this progresses to see how they even make this using the glass. That's, that would be very interesting about that.
Well, this type of glass is only beginning to be used in dentistry to an extensive degree, and the research shows that it may be very promising for tooth fillings. The bacteria in the mouth that can cause cavities doesn't seem to like this type of glass, and they're less likely to colonize on fillings that incorporate it, and that could have a significant impact on the future of dentistry. Bioactive glass is made with compounds such as silicon oxide, calcium oxide, phosphorus oxide. It looks like powdered glass. It's called bioactive because the body notices it and they can react to it, as opposed to other biomedical products that are inert. Bioactive glass is very hard and stiff. It can replace some of the inert glass fillers that are currently mixed with polymers to make modern composite tooth fillings. Almost all fillings will eventually fail. Boy, there's the bad news. But new tooth decay often begins at the interface of a filling and the tooth, and it's called secondary tooth decay. The tooth is literally being eroded and demineralized at that interface, and that will not happen with bioactive glass.
That's a good one. That's something very new, and I'm glad that you brought that up. And so now I'd like to talk, I want you to help us with talking about prostate. You as a male have that worry. Women have other problems, but prostate is, in fact, I laugh when people call it prostrate. And it is a prostate, and there are very intelligent people say prostrate, and we said that's when you lie down. But prostate, and you can see different sizes of prostate, and now there are a lot of tests. Some say they don't need this test, and they don't. But prostate is definitely a male's world. Now, how do you feel about your prostate? We getting personal
every night. He's my best friend. I think prostate is a buzzword, much like breast cancer is to women. Say prostate to guys, and they run to every exit door in the room. rather than discuss it. It's viewed as too intimate, too personal, and even if a man is experiencing many of the symptoms of prostate problems, they get into denial, and doctors will tell you they don't talk about it, and doctors kind of have to pry it out of them, which is really a tragic thing because prostate's a tremendous killer of the American male. It has to do with pollution, it has to do with our diet, it certainly has to do with stress, and also with aging. So these are all inevitable factors that are going to continue to play havoc with your body and have your prostate react in a negative way. Now, there are tests that your doctor can do, simple questionnaires. And if you sit down with your doctor, they will, and you have to be honest and straightforward, how many times do you get up at night to go to the bathroom? Never. No, not me. No, I lift weights, I was an athlete in high school. No. Tell the truth and get the right reaction because doctors can help. Now, there's a new pill coming out that had originally been for heart disease, Anita, and they've learned that men were having a strange side effect from the new drug, and they think it's responsible for widely popular sleep and C.U.R.E, and it may have been made by an accidental discovery. If you hadn't heard about it, C.U.R.E has changed the way that Americans are dealing with poor sleep, and it's available at major retailers. And it's also has a side effect of being very good for the male prostate, because some men over 60s don't get the sleep that they need, which is really debilitating, and they will all experience prostate issues, causing them to wake up multiple times in the course of the evening. And it wasn't just 60 seconds or so when men were actually awake going to the bathroom that was harmful. It was the interruption of their sleep cycle that caused them to feel so tired and sluggish the next day. Now, if that sounds familiar, a team of researchers have worked to figure out how they can help men with prostate issues get this help that they need to sleep through the night. There's been countless hours of research and experimentation, and the company called Peak Life had their researchers able to formulate a product so effective at improving prostate health that their male customers could reliably and regularly sleep through the night. Evidently, there's a secret to this medication. Peak Life Prostate is its priority. It's Flow Enhancement Complex. Now, that includes premium prostate health ingredients like saw palmetto, beta-silistrol. For many scientists, the inclusion of these premium ingredients alone would have been enough, but the researchers at Peak Life wanted more. They went a step further, and they found by suspending the primary ingredients in hydrophobic solution, they were able to increase the bioactivity of the phytosterols contained in the formula. The long and the short of the story, Peak Life Prostate is extremely effective in reducing frequent trips to the bathroom and supports a normal prostate size. Something you want to talk to your doctor about, be honest about. He'll give you the information, and that's a good attribution for this company.
There are a lot of herbs today that are on the market that also say that it will help prostate. I know for one that I make a tea, special tea for my husband Bill, that I've made for about 1.5 years because before that, the urologist wanted to go in and do what they call, it's what they do in plumbing. They wring it out or they ream it. They do a reaming. And I really said, I hope you won't do that. And I was very fortunate to find this particular, it's a natural group of herbs. It must be 17 to 18 herbs in this tea, and he drinks it every day. And although he still goes to the bathroom, it's not, hasn't stopped, as when you're a young person, it certainly has made a difference. So yes, I think the prostate is so important, and many companies will be coming up with the kinds of valuable assets that you just spoke about.
From time to time during C.U.R.E Radio, we'll have little bullets of information that aren't in the long form, but may capture your interest and move you into looking into it yourself. And coffee, apropos to your tea, is just one of them. The worst time to drink coffee, according to the website ASAP Science, is between 8 and 9 in the morning, noon and 1 p.m., 5:30 and 6:30. The best time is 1 hour after you awake, no matter what the time is.
No, that's a good one. Thank you. I didn't know about that one. And that's coffee.
It's a bullet information for you.
Okay, I got that bullet. Well, people they always wonder, is coffee good for me or is it bad for me? And we do hear and read so much. Some authorities say yes. Some scientists say, oh, it's not good at all. And what about decaffeinated compared? There's a lot of discussion going on. And of course, I'm glad you did that because we'll be looking for all these scientific reminders and we'll be able to give them every week when we're on Cure Radio.
And we'll always give you an attribution where you can go and pursue it further yourself. Once again, the coffee blurb comes from ASAP Science. Of course, people think, and through time immemorial, all the way back to the Incas, that coffee was a sacred beverage and could actually slow aging, Anita. But there's a lot of information now coming out about aging, and none of it has to do with beverages. It has to do with a key genetic link in the biology of aging. And this is researchers from Oregon State University. They suggest that it may be possible, listen to this, to slow age-related disease with new types of treatment. Very promising.
Oh, that's excellent. And yes, there's so much on aging. And of course, we know that our population has aged amazingly. I mean, I've been carrying a lot of articles on this in Boomer Times because we know that aging, when people back in 1900, I think the average age was 40. And that's why Social Security was not a problem. People never lived long enough to get Social Security. And now because of exercise and people watching their diets and because they're just a different breed of people, aging is important. And I know I want to live to be 100, and I hope you do, Neil, too, because I want to have my friend with me.
Oh, that was last year.
Oh, well, we're certainly we're glad that you're bringing up a lot of these issues. People makes people feel very good, and it's important that they don't think that they're going to buy green bananas, as they always used to say, because they'll never live long enough to eat them. That's a passé. That's not something we're talking about. That's why we're doing Cure Radio. We want you to know as much as we possibly can find out for you. And Neil's a great host, a co-host. He's been doing radio for many, many years all over the world. And so it's a privilege, actually, to have Neil share this with me. And I know I'm so excited even about the issues that you talk about, and I don't even know about them. So what do you think? We have a little time left. What do you think would be really interesting? Since this is our very first Cure Radio show, what else do you think people would like to hear about?
Well, I'll throw a few more factoids at you.
Okay.
First of all, babies born on the predicted due date just about only 4% of the time.
Oh.
So when they say, Christmas Eve, get ready, forget it. That's from the Slate Information website. And also, the Paleolithic diet, which seems to be very trendy these days, has now, through archaeologist experimentation and a lot of science, found that most Paleolithic people ate a lot of carbs, and contrary to the modern diet named after them. And the most interesting bulleted point, I guess, in this particular episode, Anita, is elephants almost never get cancer.
Well, with that, Neil, we're going to save all the good factoids for our next show on Sunday. This is going to be heard on Sundays on WWNN, which is 1470 AM on your dial, from 4:30 to 5. And I can't wait for next week, Neil. Thank you very much.
Oh, don't forget to send in your email questions.
Send them to srlife@gate.net. We have to go. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.